Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Integration Station. I'm naturally Ashley, your host. So I had a few different guests lined up. They're still coming on, but as I mentioned before, with the holidays, sometimes it's really hard to nail things in. Things come up, both on my end and families of theirs and things. So let's make the most of our time together today. Last time I did have a list of questions. Today I wasn't so prepared with any of that. So what I was going to do instead is just all around go over psychedelic integration, what that means, what it's looked like in my own life, answer any questions that you guys have live. I'm actually going to open up the private chat, so feel free to type in anything that comes up along this conversation. I'm also going to go through some of the past guests that we've had, some of the latest articles and things, and then we'll get into some of what's new and what will be coming in the new year. I guess, start with any of this, let's open up like a ceremony. We can bring our hands together, take a moment of just silence, be present here together, and make the most out of this time together. I like to bring my hands into prayer, not necessarily for any religious reason, but when we bring our hands together like this, we're bringing the positive and negative together. We're bringing the right and the left hemispheres of our brains together in union and bringing them to our heart centers, just inviting, a connection with what's above and what's below, inviting that energy up to just me in the center. It's all about is centering in, grounding in, being present. You can observe your breath. You don't have to edit it or, adjust anything. Just allow yourself to be. Notice if it's shallow or deep, if it's long or short. Notice any thoughts that come into your mind, into your mind's eye, or any space between those two ears of yours. Well, you don't have to attach to any of them. This is a great time to practice just the observation that they exist and allow it to move. And it's a time almost of discipline too. And keep that focus, that control. There's so much in our life that's out of our control, but one thing that we can always come back to is ourselves. That connection with ourselves, that observation we have inside of ourselves. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Come to center. I'm really grateful to have you here today. Anyone who's participating live, anybody who is tuning in afterwards. thank you for being present for that meditation with me as well. This is New Year's Eve. This is, you know, I'm trying to bring up the website here. So with New Year's Eve here now, and just having the full moon as well, it really is such a time of release. I saw a quote today too in on a recovery station that talked about that you do come the new year is wake up hungover. So just as like a quick little reminder there, like, life is what you make it. And this is our collective new year. I do believe that our new year is our birthday, but this is the collective one. There's something about January 1st and possibly, the economics of life where we collectively consider January 1st to be the new year. So, it's not necessarily true. There are some like old religions that still consider spring to be the new year. And so that's when they set their goals and forward. But what I specifically want to bring to it, what I believe elemental growth brings to it, is this way of creating your own traditions around what's already existing in our culture. So no matter where it is that you are, no matter how it was that you were brought up, you can kind of adjust each thing and take consideration to what's working, what's not working, and move forward into something that's new of your own creation, something that feels more aligned to that soul purpose. So some of the topics that we've worked on lately in the Elemental Growth Library was navigating the dark night of the soul. We did things on sacred snuff, like rapé, hape, the different types that are there, some of the indigenous teachings behind it. I was gifted also a couple vinegar cultures. Actually, it was from some of Steve's friends to him, but we gifted the red wine one out to his mom, and I started working with the apple cider vinegar one, did an article on that, just bringing back some of the old traditions, some of the stuff that I was personally curious about. Then there was the comprehensive exploration of psychoactive plants, frogs, and fungi, and I talked about a few other things. I did a directory of different entheogens and sacred plants. So there's definitely lots to check out there, and we're going to dig into that. I also, one of the things that was brought to my own personal attention with the new year coming was my book, Be the Change. So often, I'll bring it up and be like, I wrote about that. I wrote about aligning with the moon cycles to release and manifest, and about aligning to the seasons for food and different types of exercise and things to really be your best self and be in that alignment with the natural laws and all that. But, I really haven't been my best self lately. My environment, my inside of myself, inside of my mind, with my emotions, also changing my environment consistently, being on the road, changed a lot of the stuff that I was doing that was working and helping me get ahead. I made some sacrifices to have more adventure and to do like a road schooling style with Finn and things, and it brought a lot of different benefits, but other things kind of fell off the wayside. So I don't even know if that's like the best way of putting it, but essentially, I really do feel that kind of out of alignment. And so I decided that I'm going to come back to basics too. I'm going to start those collective groups back up for each of the seasons, starting with this winter. Also be doing the work myself, so this may even be like a rebranding of that program with your guys' help and meeting each other where we're at right now. I invite you all to keep keep in touch on that if it's something that interests you. But I'll definitely be sharing more of it too. And so one of the reasons why this is of such benefit is the natural laws are what keeps us safe, keeps us in alignment with humanity, with our own humanity, understanding that we're part of the ecosystem and that it's okay to let go of some of that ego or to better align our ego with our soul. So yeah, I found growing up with so many different traumas and so many changed environments and things that what was consistent for me always was the moon cycles, the fact that they were always had their own same pattern, that it was always so beautiful and inviting, that even the dark sky of the new moon, the dark side of the moon, I was able to see more stars and vision more. And I realized that was a part of manifestation, like a canvas. I had the seasons always around me, especially being in Canada, growing up, with Native American teachings around me and so close to a native reserve and things too. I really had that connection. I had so much land around me that, I spent most of my time out barefooted in nature with animals. And there's a lot of blessings in that. I got a lot of connection where in other areas there was abandonment, neglect, and other things that created traumas and glitches in my own system. But it's also that alignment with those natural laws and with Mama Nature herself that I was able to turn out to be the person that I am and to have the connection that I have in relationships with people and animals and myself too. So, yeah, it's also really good to be able to use these things for personal and business development. So that's some of the stuff that we'll be diving into more and more as well. So uh, there's ways to, on the new moon, use that as a time to manifest. But you can manifest all the positivity you want. You can dream as big as you want. But if you're not letting go of the negativity, it's just going to bloat you up. You're just going to be so full and so overwhelmed. So, and then you're going to be edgy and this and that, like it just spirals out of control. So you have to also be able to have that time of release. And that's when the full moon is. That's the time when we're usually more social as a species too. So we're out, we're talking more, we're up a little bit later. You may be up later socializing, being that magnetic self that you have the potential to be, or you may be more introverted and doing this, staying up and taking care of business in your own home, where like the animals do. They're staying up later too. They're working on their homes. They're working on their stuff to do. I like to use that time to have a sacred fire and to burn a bunch of stuff that's no longer serving me. Maybe it's journaling pages, maybe it's coaching notes and things that are confidential. So I'll take notes on the most specific things, most important things. I'll make sure to give that purpose. But the rest of it, I let it go. Those actual originals, for the most part, I let a lot of that stuff go in that time. And on a daily basis, I'm doing the same ritual. And that's the thing. We have this, the new and full moon, or this day and night of every single day. So I like to break up our day into 4 different quadrants. We've got our morning, where we've got to consider that our cortisol is going to be at its highest in that time. So we do have to consider that. And in order to take care of cortisol, this like negative emotion that's going to be high, we want to be able to journal out the negative thoughts that are coming to our mind. These automatic negative thoughts are almost like ants that can colonize in your brain. It may start as one, but then next thing you know, there's a queen and a million more, and they've taken over your entire mindscape. And so we got to shake them out, sometimes with large doses of psychedelics, sometimes with gradual microdosing and being an active participant in that cleansing, depending on where you are. Sometimes, and most of the time, especially in the integration space, is to be doing this through journaling work, getting out those automatic negative thoughts every single day, getting out the fears, the fantasized evidence that appears real. It's just 98% of our subconscious mind making up this crazy ass stuff, and we need to get it all out. So you can get it out that way. You can get it out through exercise. Exercise is a great way to regulate your hormones like cortisol. So you just get it all out as best as you can. You can get out in sunlight, absorb that vitamin D, which is a hormone, and our body stores it like a hormone. So if you can get it into your like actual skin without being all covered up, especially in those morning rays, it could be really beneficial. And so that's the first quadrant, just making sure you're taking care of yourself, regulating your hormones, regulating your mind so that you can make the most out of your day. Any captain of any ship would be doing this, and you want to be the captain of your ship because those seas are crazy. So this is the best way in order to do that. And any captain, they would be taking care of the maintenance of their ship. They would be taking care of their staff, so their family, whoever is on their team. And they would be taking care of themselves because they're responsible for all of that. And that's, the path to freedom too, is taking that 100% responsibility. So that's that first quadrant. And there are quadrants with the moon, there are quadrants with the seasons. That's why I chose a quadrant for a day to just own that day. Great book, by the way. I know some of you know it, by Aubrey Marcus. So the second quadrant, this would be your productivity time, especially if you're an entrepreneur or a parent, or maybe you work for somebody else, or you're at home homesteading, whatever it is. This is that productivity mode. You can get a lot of stuff done in a short amount of time, especially if you're feeling good. You definitely want to make sure you fuel your body as part of that morning quadrant. I guess I left that out, but you want to hydrate, especially if you can, before drinking anything else. Big coffee addicts, it can be hard, but if you can just be mindful of it and bring that into your day, that'll definitely be an asset. Just water first, and then of course nourish your body with something good. You do also want to have that release part too. Somehow get all that into that first quadrant. This second one, now you feel nourished, now you've done that release, now you can be productive, put that energy forward. One thing that I really like to do with my clients is I get them to send me a Trinity text. So that would be, what are their automatic negative thoughts? What are the things that they're grateful for? And what are their action steps for the day? So they're getting that out in their first quadrant. So by the time they get to their second quadrant, they have a set of affirmations from me, to get their mindset in the right place. And then they have clear, concise action steps where to focus. So if they are a cannabis smoker or a microdose or anything, that intention is going into it so that they can be an active participant. Mama Ganja is so great. She can take our focus for 4 hours and allow us to focus on something. It's a great tool and an asset to have her on your side. But if you don't give her that focus, it's going to go somewhere else. Like Terence McKenna said, if you don't have a plan, you'll fall into somebody else's plan. Well, what if that plan is the ego's plan? Or, somebody else who's indecisive, or into the environment, which may or may not be in your control. And then you feel out of alignment and ungrounded, and you have to come back to that beginning again. So there are, a lot of tools that are out there to make this process of life a lot easier. These are just things that work for me, ideas and things that I've come up with over time, learning from books and other coaches and things. But, the goal here is not just to take from this, but to exactly what I'm saying, but to, maybe create your own kind of system for a day or protocol for your life for this specific season. Everything is always going to change. And this is why I also have everything done in those quadrants of the seasons, because what I can get productive done in that second quadrant of that day, the morning time between breakfast and lunch, that big productivity time. That's going to change depending on what season it is. Any entrepreneur or successful person in business, they have quarters of the year for a reason, because certain things get done depending on people's buying and selling habits and just in general, their mood and how it is that you feel, and whether or not you're going to be inside or outside, whether or not you're going to be on tech or off tech and in person, so this is what's good about bringing it back to those seasons too. And you get to understand that everything always changes. Nothing ever is the same. So you can allow yourself to change too. One of the reasons we become saboteurs for ourselves is because we're resisting that change, that growth. And it feels good when you're tapped into the natural laws and working with Mama Nature to be able to do it with ease, and also understanding that you're not a victim of it, that it's like, the changes are happening for you. You can't be consistent in the same thing every single day of every single year, because you without getting burnt out or something else happening, because you yourself are changing. Your cells are naturally changing. Your body's going to need different things as you age. You inevitably are aging. You can age well and have good quality of life, or the other way, depending on your decisions in the day. So that's the part, that decision part. That's what we're doing here in these quadrants, creating the rituals so that you have those specific, can make those decisions almost seamlessly, depending on the season, can optimize on it. It's an ever-growing formula that you're growing with over time. So I'm really excited to get back into it and use it personally too, and share it in a new way with you guys, what I've learned from when it was published in 2019 to where we're headed now in 2024. So that's, I guess, 5 years. So we're due. I really got to take a sip for water. This is still my morning hydration, but I did have it full. And I know I'll be done by the time that this is over. So the most you can get in the morning, especially before drinking. I did have a warm drink in between this, so I kind of failed, but I did also have water before I had that drink. I think it's super important. So, another quadrant that we'll have is I like to reward myself for what tasks I did that I was productive in, especially just because I've got a bit of an ADD mind. I can get unfocused. I like to reward myself for having the focus in that time. And so that's when I'd be having a meal, something that I'm actually going to enjoy, have all of the colors of the rainbow in it. I'll normally have Finn in the kitchen with me so that we're doing this together and can have a little bit of fun, so that the meal time isn't a fight, but instead a collaborative effort to create something beautiful and nourishing. And then we go into another productive quadrant in the day. So one of the quadrants I'll normally have that's focused on business, and the other one I'll have focused on nature and like more in-person things, maybe going outside of the home environment or just being outside of the actual house and outside. And I reverse them depending on what time of year it is, because when it's summertime and the sun's up really early and Finn's up really early and everything, then we'll do a lot of the outside stuff before in that second quadrant. And then in the afternoon, I do more businessy stuff because he'd be tuckered out and I would have more time to focus because that would be taken care of. And that is oftentimes reversed because in the wintertime, it doesn't get warm until later on. So I'd be doing work in the morning part, and in the afternoon, I would be more outside enjoying the sun. Like, this is the warmest part of today. So, or we're coming into it normally about like 1-2 o'clock is when it gets that warmest. The last quadrant is the most important, and that one is sleep. So before I even go to sleep, I like to do a recap, almost like a time audit. where did I spend my day, my time in that day, what worked, what didn't work. If I'm focusing on spending and earning, I like to take note of that. Again, what worked, what didn't work. If there's struggles, things that I've been writing down as them being ants or fears, I like to recap, how did that affect my day? Was there a trigger? Did I overcome it? Was it, if it's like sometimes I'm like I've been struggling with nail biting, and sometimes I can grow them out and be really nice. But when it's something that I'm struggling with, or in those times, I really like to take note. Was it like a boredom thing? Was it that I couldn't control a situation thing? What was it? Because it's my body trying to tell me something, and I like to also like thank myself for those kinds of messages too. It can be so easy to get in that trap of beating yourself up, but I like to remember what Dr. Dan Engel really drilled into me in our psychedelic integration circles, the ones that he used to host, and that's life's happening for you, not to you. And it can be hard to really understand what that means. But these are those types of areas where something like that can really make a difference in your mindset. So you can manifest the things that you actually want, and embrace the miracles as they come, and be more of more of an opportunist instead of a pessimist or an optimist. There's a funny saying, the pessimist will see the glass as half empty, the optimist will see it as half full, but the opportunist is just going to drink it and, and make what they can with it. So I like to think of, I like to think more in that way, whatever the circumstances, how can I make the most of it? And then also tracking the data instead of the drama. Oh, this pissed me off, this stressed me out, blah, 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 blah. Instead, it can just be something like more of an opportunity to find solutions. I was born the same birthday as John Lennon, so I always felt like that strong connection with him. One of the quotes that he used that always resonated with me was that there are no problems, only solutions. So I really like to get in that mindset. Think, what's the opportunity in this? Where's the love? Where's the lesson? What can we do with all this? Because normally, those things that feel bad or that are triggering, like it's a lot, so what are you going to do with a lot? You got to find purpose for it. You got to get it out in some way, and so I do this by like taking audit what worked in the day, what didn't. Sometimes I'll be doing yoga if I am feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes if I'm just really overthinking and I have a hard time getting to sleep, I'll journal. Really important thing to keep in mind is that our bodies naturally get into a second wind at 10 p.m. So if you're not laying down in the horizontal position by 10 p.m., then you have this chance that you're going to get that second wind and not be able to sleep in that time. There are exceptions to this rule, some that are night owls, some that have different issues that are going on mentally or physically in their body where that can be an issue. And, I'm happy to discuss any of those things with you personally. Everything we do is donation based. So you can book in on my website, elementalgrowth.org. At any time, you'll see my calendar there. And we can talk about those, but just keeping it general. A lot of people, who are struggling with sleep, this is the thing. If you can be in that horizontal position, and then in that you could have maybe candlelight, or possibly if you do need to move your body, you can have candlelight and do some light yoga, not anything like too extraneous. A good thing though is candlelight and a journal. Try to stay off the tech. If you are a tech junkie and that's just like the habit you're in, you need to meet yourself where you're at, then that's okay. Have it, but be in that horizontal position so that you can fall asleep. And then I'd recommend be working on that actively to wean off of it over time and into something that feels more aligned with where you want to be in your life. And so these are some of the things to consider in that night portion. And one of the reasons too why we want to be doing this kind of audit of our day is because we can set up better our next day and have more focus as we're falling asleep on positive thoughts instead of the overwhelm of the things that we don't quite understand. Yogi Bhajan, as controversial as that name can be in the yoga community, he had a wonderful quote that if you want to learn something, you read about it. If you want to understand something, you write about it. And if you want to master something, you teach it. And so I like to do a lot of things in those 3 steps. Sometimes I swap it out for, observing and taking action and practicing in your own life, and then eventually teaching it. But I also really do give a lot of credit to people who are writing. It makes a big difference, because if you can get your thoughts out on paper, it's like this physical release. You're inviting and yourself to release it. It means something to be able to do that. It's like a type of reconditioning of the mind to say what you will and will not allow inside of yourself. So by physically getting it out, you're saying, no, you're not welcome in here. A lot of people get scared in the positive psychology field. If I write it out, then I'm going to manifest bad stuff. Or if I burn a paper where I wrote bad stuff, then, or I need to hold on to this and nobody can ever see it. It's like, no, like, honestly, you have to get it out of you. That's the most powerful part, is to teach yourself what you will and will not allow, these types of boundaries. And it starts with yourself, and then you can practice in your other environment. Now, that's something I'm going through now. I know nothing about that. I spent a lot of my life alone. I have a son, but that's like a part of me, so it's a little different. But, there's, with myself, I've done a lot of this work, and over the years, it's made an incredible difference. The way that I react to things, my coping mechanisms, things I've been able to actually track the progress that I've made. Some of my success lists from over the years, because part of the Trinity text is to write your successes and your brags and the things that you're grateful for. And so in that, I've actually tracked what those successes have been from when I started doing this practice in I think it was 2013 to where we are now, headed into 2024. So, I went from, about like 3 things I could be like grateful for, and to an entire list. It's not that I'm writing an entire list, it's that I'm tracking the things that are new and different. And now it's pages of like 3 columns of things that I'm getting done that I feel good about, that are in alignment with me, that, I can look back on my life and be like, I did that, and that feels good. And that felt in alignment compared to a lot of my past before my sobriety, when I felt maybe not regrets, like I was a really happy person, but I was having like blackout moments, and there would be things where I'm like, oh, it's like, that doesn't feel like me, or that doesn't feel like alignment, or I knew I wanted to stop, but I was struggling, so I knew I wanted a different kind of mindset and to be doing different things. And so there was like different kinds of struggles. And I remember that struggle took precedent over the things that I was grateful for. And a lot of that changed as I started bringing in these practices. Even more changed when the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, some of my teachers there, and the great staff, and even the person who inspired me to go, Lise Parker, before that experience and them encouraging me to publish the book, Be the Change, that really instilled it even more, because that was the right to understand it part. And that's when I really understood what my job, I could have wrote about anything, but what did I want to write about? What I loved so much, and that was Mama Nature and our cyclical cycles, which I felt it being in that alignment made my life better. And I could feel that there was like proof behind that. And I had a lot of respect and reverence. So that's why I chose to write about. Like, that's what I wanted to understand, those natural laws, the ways to make life easier when people are struggling. Than specifically myself, and I'm coming to this point of like, new and of transformation, I'm being reminded and humbled that I have to come back to these basics. I've had so many changes in my life. I thought I could escape winter this year, and then here I am, like, resisting the lessons in nature and resisting, the mom, like my mother, our mother, our collective mother. And and there's a lot to be grateful for, in how, the fall really shows us how beautiful it is to let go, and how in the winter, as dormant as it is, it's so beautiful to be able to use that opportunity to germinate new seeds for the future, to use it as almost like a blank canvas, like that, like the new moon when the sky's darker. You still see something. You see the magic of that sparkly snow, or the raging rivers as the ice is like melting and building and all of that. Or there's just like all of these things. You also, in the new moon, to continue that thought, I guess, before I go off on another tangent, the new moon, it's such a dark night because there's no new moon, and you want to go to bed earlier, and that's great. And you might feel a little like, more lethargic, or something in those times. But when you look out at the sky, you see all the stars, and maybe there's a meteor shower or a shooting star for you to make a wish. Maybe it's, closing your two eyes and opening that third eye, and, and asking for what it is that you want to manifest. But, yeah. So, all right, you guys, I am... Let me see if I can share the screen. It won't let me, but I will read off of it. So a big one that comes up with psychedelic integration, I talk about this almost every single time that I'm integrating groups after retreats, and it's been coming up more and more in personal practice. It comes full circle in my own life quite often, but specifically this year, because I lost 3 men that I really cared about due to different things, but all within a month period of time, and each was tragic in its own way. And then I did a lot of traveling, and now I'm trying to come back to homeostasis and what it means, like, to be me and to be a mom and to have a coaching business, and like all this stuff. So yeah, so I decided to write about it, understand it a little bit more. And you guys can access this. You guys can read along with me today, or go back on your own time. But this is definitely a psychedelic integration teaching that I really want to share today. The actual book that I've been working with when it comes to this, I mean, there are many, but this one is by Thomas More, Dark Nights of the Soul, A Guide to Finding Your Way Through Life's Ordeals. But there's also Carl Jung, Modern Man in Search of a Soul, and the original poem by St. John the Cross in the 16th century, Dark Night of the Soul. There are tons of other psychiatrists that take this work really serious, and I learned about it myself through sitting in on integration circles with my own mentor, Dr. Dan Engel. And, I dove into the work like I did with most of the stuff that he recommended, everything that resonated. I prioritized it, and I've been working away bit by bit, with the gratitude and practice along the way. But this specific work really hits hard, and I keep coming back. And that book, by Thomas More, who is a psychologist as well, he talks about old goddess religion Hecate in it too, which is the triple moon goddess. And so there's like a mixture of all kinds of science and spirituality and history mixed into this work. So I highly recommend it if you want to dive deeper. Like how there's a hero's journey, there are different steps to the dark night of the soul. The first part is the awakening or the triggering event. So here's something about triggers. When we're in trauma recovery, maybe PTSD, CPTSD or complex trauma, meaning, it's traumas that are continuously happening over a period of time, or child trauma where, you really weren't in control and maybe things were continuing that really weren't healthy for long periods of time. So sometimes we'll store this away and the body keeps score of it. So it can manifest in disease or in mental health issues or addiction or all kinds of different things as coping mechanisms. And when we're getting triggered as a grown adult and remembering these kinds of things or reverting into those kind of situations or recreating those situations, it's our body's trying to attempt to control it so we can heal it. So the best thing that we can do is to just pause, take a breath, tune in and observe ourselves, like that practice we did in the beginning of today's episode. And in that, acknowledge and be grateful for the trigger, because it's showing us that we are ready to heal, that we are safe, and that it's our responsibility to do that healing. So it's okay. The trigger is okay. It's okay to be triggered. What's not okay is to hurt somebody or to hurt yourself. So you have to remove yourself. You have to sit with it. You have to feel it. You have to free it, possibly write about it to understand it. You have to start taking action to actively be doing something better in those areas. You need to, sit with yourself and figure out, what actually does feel good. What things are you grateful for, so you can get in a more positive mindset, have that be more of a coping mechanism, and then, approach those action steps, actually start taking action, give purpose for those downloads that you're receiving from source in those times that you're emptying out and releasing. And, all those emotions that we're not sure what to do with in those times that we're overwhelmed. Guess what? Our mother, our collective mother, she does. So you can just give that energy back to Mama Nature. Scream out loud, find a stick on the ground, start beating a rock with it or beating the ground with it. You can do some yoga outside, ground barefoot, do some earthing, your hands down, your head down, whatever you want. Hug a tree, just take a walk and breathe. Those are the things to do in those triggering events. And also, you realize that this is the first step and that this is beautiful and that you're ready for it, that this is a good thing. This is a good thing. Okay, you guys, this is a good thing. This is an initial stage which sparks a significant life-changing event. This is the spark of transformation. This is the planting of a seed. This is what winter is all about, planting and germinating those seeds. So this is a seed that was given to you in a dark time, a time that felt bad because it was a trigger or maybe an original trauma, but in that there was gifted to you a seed. What are you going to do with that seed? Are you going to give it purpose and germinate it? Or are you going to throw that seed out of having a temper tantrum or because you're ungrateful for that seed? And then you may never make anything out of that. But here's what our mother, our collective mother, is going to do. She's going to keep giving you seeds because she wants you to win the fight. She wants you to win good over evil. She wants you to outwit that devil, that negative energy that's on every side to every atom. There's a positive and a negative that fuels the energy of everything. And when you're feeling an overwhelm of negative energy, you got to get it out. You got to allow yourself to get it out. This another thing about that is that it's a point of questioning. It's invoking you allowing you this opportunity to question. So this is when, why journaling and things to understand would be so helpful. The second step is the initiation of spiritual desolation. This is the beginning as you're going into the darkness, okay? And it's okay to go dark, like when you start doing those questioning, when you are when you're feeling those triggered emotions. This is what I mean about you want to feel it to free it. So feel into it. When you're journaling, what's the darkest damned thing that you can think of? When you're feeling hurt, when you're feeling angry and you're grabbing that stick off the ground, what is, like, feel into that anger as much as you can. If you're crying, think of the saddest, feel it. If you're grieving, feel it. So we're taught to resist these things. We're told so often as kids, shut up, you can't feel that. It's getting in the way. You feeling that's getting in the way of me. It's a very selfish way of thinking, whereas what we could be doing, it's teaching them those coping mechanisms of take themselves away when they're feeling big things. Mama Nature's always there to nourish them, provide them the tools that they need in order to get it out of them, and that it's okay to feel it. And in fact, feel it as big as it needs to be in those moments, but in a safe environment where they're not going to hurt themselves or hurt anybody else, and set that example also by doing for yourself. You want to be able to, in these times, also, I guess in these times, you may feel detachment from anybody, like a lack of empathy and things like that. But these are also when in that journaling practice, we can come back to what are the things that do feel good. So now we've gotten out the darkness. Now we want to fill up that space with the more positive things. What are the things that we're grateful for? What kind of meaning can we bring from this? Are there any seeds of equivalent opportunity? It's not always going to feel the best in this moment. So you want to be able to get it all out, whatever feels bad, right? But also be able to know that this is a next step, is filling that space with the good. When you're in the dark night of the soul and you're feeling that darkness, you're feeling that turmoil, you're feeling that detachment, it's going to bring in a lot of negative emotions like doubt, like that drifter kind of mindset that can bring us back into old patterns, old ways of thinking, old belief systems. Maybe there's more ego coming in to try to protect us. Maybe there's fear coming in to saboteur us and provide us our ego with false evidence. In part of the letting go is also surrendering to all of that. But like in the beginning of our show today, we sat just observing our thoughts. This is exactly what you want to be doing there too. You want to be surrendering to the experience in a safe environment, like you would on a deep psychedelic trip or a deep, dark, bad trip. You want to just surrender to it. And in that, understand that in all darkness, there is an equivalent seed of light, like the yin yang teachings. In the dark, there's always a little light, and in the light, there's always little dark. Our job is to ride this wave in the middle. And if you ride the wave, that's the surrender. It's if you're fighting in and out of any of it, that's when you get the pull in, or that's when you get like that really high energy and everybody's like telling you gotta chill, so like people on a lot of uppers or things like that. So yeah, I like to definitely come back to that yin yang teaching and remind myself of that. I like to light a candle or have a fire, I like to dance. I like to laugh. Dennis McKenna talks a lot about the cosmic giggle, and I find that psychedelics often teach us how to deal with life a little bit better. I know for myself, they've definitely provided me a lot of tools that I didn't have before. Just over the years, new things over time to practice and to enforce. And one of them is definitely that Heyoka humor, invoking the Heyoka inside of myself, that empath, the sacred clown, the one that, can find the funny in things, the one that can, especially in a dark time, be able to tap into laughter as a type of somatic release, or to be able to turn on music and dance and do that somatic work to just move the body and get it out, or like kind of sporadically shake. That's what dancing and laughter is. It's just this spontaneous kind of cosmic giggle that releases all the intensity that's attached to that dark night. It literally frees you from whatever spiritual darkness is attached. I don't think that darkness can live in a place that laughter is. I think the vibration is just too high, especially if children are involved. But if it's a real deep laugh of an adult or an elder, like, I think it's just as potent. And I think that was maybe the message of that Monsters Inc. movie, how, at first everybody was fueling the machine from darkness and fear and causing nightmares. But then eventually they realized that laughter was stronger than the fear. And that's what they eventually started harvesting, because it was through the roof. And I know that this is not a cartoon, but obviously these things, are inspired from somewhere. And maybe somebody figured this out, and realized and wanted to share that message in a way, especially with our children. I think that's a beautiful thing. Of course, with anything, especially on this show, we're going to come back to union and integration as well. And this is the final stage when it comes to the dark night of the soul as well. So, I again appreciate you guys tuning in for this teaching. There are so many more that I've been posting. I got on that Threads thing too on Instagram. On Threads, I can actually share the links with you guys. So as I'm putting out new video content, as I'm putting out new articles, that's what I'll be sharing on there on Instagram itself. There's new things coming. I'm doing a collaboration with Somebody Feeds Casey and DP on mental health. I've got the Encyclopedia Psychoactive Plants coming to you guys. I'm going to be breaking it up. We're just fine-tuning how and when each thing is going to start, because these are pretty big and commitment-based projects, both of them. So we're just fine-tuning, but this kind of content will be coming out soon. As I mentioned, there are tons of guests that are coming up for the integration station too. Let me just see who we've got upcoming. We got Dragonfly Earth Medicine is one. I've also got the Shift Academy coming on. Who else do we got? Monica and Kendall, who are doing they're doing retreats down in Mexico, and they do not sponsorships. What are those called when you get into school? Yeah, some kind of sponsorship where you don't have to pay the full amount to be able to go to some of these retreats and learn from the teachings that they're sharing. We're obviously going to learn a lot more about that together. Who else have we got? Olympus Michaud. We've been chatting for a minute, that's for sure. And I think that's going to be another collaboration with EP coming soon. More in the works as we're texting and nailing down dates. If you're interested in being a guest on this show or want to collaborate in some other ways, if you're interested in sponsoring this show or working, together, maybe retreats, different kinds of things that we're into. Maybe you just want to learn what it is that we've been doing and some other ways you can get involved in the projects and different things that we've been working on, then feel free to reach out. You can access my calendar at www.elementalgrowth.org, as well as the resources I shared on today's show, as well as anything else. There are tons of free downloadable pieces of work for you to integrate psychedelics into your own life. And so all of it's there for you guys. There's no obligation or commitment attached. However, I do always want to make sure that what I am doing is being given a purpose. So please, you guys, keep doing the work. I want to thank you for showing up here. If you want to get in touch, yes, the calendar, or you can find me on Instagram and Facebook and all that other kind of stuff. I love you all so much. I'm going to say goodbye for now.